Politics. Do you get involved? Do you get involved at all? When I say involved, I mean out loud. You get out loud involved. Not who you vote for, I mean, but policy level.
Oh, yeah, I have strong opinions politically,
Okay.
yeah, absolutely, and I'm involved.
How do you feel about current energy policy? Do you feel it supports what you're doing? Do we need change to get what you have?
Well, because people have strong opinions and people are, we're a startup company who's looking for investors.
Mm-hmm.
I've been asked by existing investors to be careful about
Be easy.
being in terms of
Yeah.
expressing my political opinions.
Mm-hmm.
But I will say that there's one candidate who, we've seen recently some impacts from climate change, right? I think everybody's starting to acknowledge that there's something going on with the environment that's different from what we've seen in the past.
Yes.
But we're also aware that there's one candidate for president who, while in office, one of the first things they did was to withdraw the U.S. from the Paris Accords, the climate Paris Accords, which to me was a huge disappointment because it's like an irresponsible thing to do. Mm-hmm. For political reasons, for whatever. And one party I've noticed over the years have been, and I understand. I mean, I'm now learning a lot about business. I understand how things work. I understand that you can't just drop everything. Kamala Harris is now saying that she will not stop fracking, and that's understandable because you can't just, if you say everybody's going to drive an electric car, but everybody's got gasoline cars, you can't just. Right. There's no.
Don't work like that.
It makes no sense, right? You can't just pull the plug out of the economy and then say, okay, we're going to tear everything up and then start building over and just leave. It makes no sense. It's irrational. You can't just bring about big change like that. Things have to happen gradually over time. People have to adapt. The problem is that people get comfortable and used to doing things a certain way and they don't want to change. And they see problems with change. It's going to be discomfort for some people. Mm-hmm. Some people are going to be winners and losers and all of this stuff. Unfortunately, but it's change that has to happen. And so it just needs to be done in a responsible way. Right. You can't pull the rug out from people and expect everything to be okay. That's not the real world. You can't have people going to work every day and all of a sudden the jobs disappear because we're not going to do this anymore. Mm. You have to do that in small chunks, bites,
phases,
and give them a chance to get to a new job, and then you do another one. And you gotta have a transition. You can't just have a step function where everything is going to be new. But it causes, when people talk about change, though, it causes people to have a lot of fear and apprehension about, okay, well, this is scary, it's unknown, what's going to happen, and people will tend to recoil. Right. I think it's fair to say that what it means to be conservative in America is a whole new thing now.
It's changing.
It's a whole new thing. But yeah, I do have strong opinions. I do have fears about what the country will be like if the wrong person's running it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I won't lean too much in it. We're trying to get investors. We need J-Tech in the market. But I did have a question about, I feel like it's kind of political, but it's not, politics.
Okay.
Who or what do you consider competition for J-Tech Energy, like the company, not just the device, but just, is there, who's like, hey, I need to get past them, or, if you can say.
Well, I don't. I haven't, quite honestly, I have not identified a competition for J-Tech.
Okay.
J-Tech, J-Tech is disruptive. We get that out of the laboratory. It's like McHugh, our CEO, always says that, it's the only company or project he's ever been involved in where he won't have any trouble finding customers, because there's a great need for what we're doing. And so it's not a situation where we're having to push someone else out or beat someone else out. I would also go as far to say is that was the idea with the battery as well. It was intended to be a game changer. I tell people that Super Soaker spoiled me. If I get involved in something, I want to take it to another level. And I don't want to go get involved in a company where it's a me too and I'm having to elbow a little competitive space or niche or something like that. I want to have a whole different ballgame. And that's basically where JTech and the battery technologies are.
So we're in a class of our own in JTech.
Yeah, that's
pretty
right.
much. You're creating the industry.
The other battery technology that I have been working on over the years, the lithium-air battery, which came out of my work with the solid-state battery when I realized that I could have a solid electrolyte that would protect lithium and still react with lithium in the ambient air. And that battery has a potential for 10 times the energy of lithium ion. So think of a car going 3,000 miles instead of 300 miles.
Mm-hmm.
That's the technology that I'm working on, and I have ideas for how to make that work.
Wow, I love the ideas, because a lot of people see STEM and they just think zeros, ones, logic, that, but it takes a lot of creativity too. There's art to what you keep coming up with over and over.
There's a lot of vision.
Yeah, a lot of you got to be a visionary for some of this stuff.
Lots of vision, and then figuring out how to turn vision into reality, and even seeing what, like I said, with the working on the battery and having a background in mechanical engineering and knowing how engines work and figuring out how to turn battery technology into engine technology, which is what basically the JTech merging thermodynamics and electrochemistry. Mm-hmm. That's why it's a new space.
Right. And by the way, I didn't say JTech stands for Johnson Thermo Electrical Converter. Chemical converter. Okay. Electrochemical converter. Right. I love that you put your name in it, because then it's live far beyond you. Once this thing is everywhere.
Well, it's, again, my part. Historically, I became very sensitive to the growing up in the South and knowing that I've had ancestors who did not and have not gotten credit for contributions that they've made. And growing up in pre-integration and all the trauma that we went through with that, and how angry people were about the prospect of integration even, and being fearful of us as a people. And you see some of that coming out now too, which is sad to see. Mm-hmm. But I wanted people to know that we make meaningful contributions, and I wanted to have. I put my name on it because I didn't want to have a situation where people would be able to deny where it came from, mm-hmm. what people created this. Even after Super Soaker, people, I've seen the full gamut. There have been people who said, "Boy, Super Soaker was invented by, that's the only thing black people ever came up with." That was, I'm like, yeah. And then at the other extreme, was made a presentation to some kids back when Super Soaker first came out, and I was talking to some middle school kids, mm-hmm. and about, it was the high school kids, come to think of it, and they looked at me and said, "You didn't invent that." They didn't believe me. I'm like, okay, what do you do? But yeah, the idea that we as a people, people need to acknowledge that there are a lot of very meaningful and important contributions that we have made and continue to make mm-hmm. in this country. And I will say that also when Obama came into the presidency, that was right after a lot of people will remember that we had the housing crash. The entire global market was crashing. Mm-hmm. And we led that crash because of decisions that people on Wall Street had been making, and these subprime loans on
Predatory.
housing and putting people in predatory loans, putting people into houses that they couldn't afford. And basically we're not doing credit checks and things like that. And just we ended up crashing the entire market. The whole world was in an economic, and we needed somebody super smart to pull us out of that mess. And so Obama was, I think if things were rosy and people weren't worried about anything, he may not have gotten elected. Right now, well, after that, COVID again, we were in trouble. The country was in trouble. And Biden was brought in with Kamala. And now we're in a situation where people are struggling to figure out, and I hear people talking all the time about, well, I'm not sure. I was just listening on the radio about, well, I'm having trouble finding a job, or I can't make enough money to support, and all of these things, and I'm not sure that's the right person to vote for. I'm frustrated with the Democrats and so on. My concern, quite frankly, is if you vote for this person on one side, there's a pretty good chance in 2028 you'll get to vote again, and you get to choose. And if you don't like the way things are going, you get to vote again. That may not be the case if you get the wrong person.
Right.
You may not have another chance to vote. And people have to figure out who,
do the math.
Who would has respect for the norms and the limitations, and who does not.